Two men and one canteen. There's a famous discussion in the Talmud called Bava Metzia, folio 62. It goes as follows. Two people are going along the way, along the path. One of them has a canteen. There's only enough water for one of them to survive. What should the person do? Rabbi Elazar ben Parto says that let the person who has the canteen share it with the other. Let them both share the same fate. If they both die, so be it. Rabbi Akiva came along and said, this is not the case, for it says in the Torah, V'chei ochicha imach, your brother shall live with you, but you have to be living. Make sure that you're alive. In the course of the last 1900 or so years, since Rabbi Akiva said those words, it's fascinating to note that the great scholars passed over that particular concept, did not record it in the books of law. Everything the Talmud discusses is a matter of law. And it is well known that Rabbi Akiva was the greatest of the teachers, the sages of his generation, where he argues with an individual sage. The law is always like him. Yet, in the codes, in Maimonides' great work, this discussion is not to be found. And the rabbis of all the centuries scratched their heads and wondered, why is it that Maimonides, as a man of the law, would not articulate this most basic law of survival? And I know much has been said about this, and written by the great rabbis that were contemporaneous. But every individual is entitled to interpret according to the way he sees it. And this is the way this rabbi sees it. Perhaps you'll agree. There's a very, very famous case that Maimonides talks about that had its application in the Second World War, and hopefully would never again have to be applied. That's the case of an enemy surrounding a Jewish enclave, a city, and demanding that the Jews hand over individuals to the attacking party. Give us one of yours, or else we shall do away with all of you. And what do you do? There it's unanimous that we have an obligation of our sacred trust in one another, not to give over one of ours for death to save ourselves. The Talmud wishes to go further. What happens if they've identified the victim so that it don't make a difference? They will all die. They might as well give over that one individual so that they could live. This is an argument between the great teacher of all of Israel, Rabbi Yochanan, and his student partner, Rabbi Simon ben Lakish, known as Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says an individual is never greater than the public You can't cause the death of another to save yourself. But if you're dealing with the public, 2 trump 1. Now, just to give someone over to save yourself, you're not allowed to. But if they know who they want, and they're going to get them anyway, give them over. He's a dead man anyway. At least you save yourself. Reish Lakish disagrees. Under no circumstances should one give in to evil. Even when they have all the cards, even when they can kill all of you. Don't give in to evil. Now this is a strange case because in law is always like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was the one that said, they know who they want. They'll get them anyway. Everyone will die. Just save yourself. That should be the law. It's not. Maimonides says, under no circumstances are you supposed to or you're allowed to give over the soul of Israel to the enemy. Even if they've identified him. Even if they'll kill all of them. There's only one exception. And that's if the individual they mention is a criminal who's guilty of a capital crime, such as sedition, rebellion, murder. He's guilty of a capital crime, and they want him. Then, by all means, you're allowed to give him over. Maimonides, however, is not finished at this. He says as follows, even though that's the law, we don't issue that verdict right away. This is very strange. Imagine you're in a city of 10,000 people. There's a man who's wanted for rebellion against the government, capital crime, and you're being told, unless you give Mr. So-and-so in our hands by 5 o'clock, we're going to destroy the entire compound and 10,000 people will die. You go to the rabbi and the rabbi says, well, I'll look into it. What do you mean you look into it? 10,000 people are going to die for this one no-goodnik if you don't issue the verdict. Maimonides is clear. You can issue a verdict, but you don't give it to them to begin with. Maybe they'll figure out a way of satisfying the attackers. I always wondered, why?